You're listening to The Money Hour with your host, Tina Mitchell, on Alternative Talk, AM 1150. Now, back to the show with local mortgage and finance expert, Tina Mitchell.
Welcome back to The Money Hour with your host and mortgage expert, Tina Mitchell, right here on 1150 AM KKNW, the Saturday, December 3rd show. I'm committed to providing you knowledge needed to be successful in every area regarding your finances. Knowledge is power, and that's what you'll receive by listening to the show today. If you're hearing my show at a different time or day, you are listening to a rebroadcast, but you can call the show at 1-855-400-1150 or online at themoneyhour.com. Ask any questions or get connected with the guests that I have in studio. Right now, I'll have a conversation with Scott Monroe with Windermere Real Estate Wall Street. Scott, thank you so much for joining me back in studio. Great to have you.
Good to see you.
And a little bit about Scott. Scott has been with Windermere since 1992 and has been consistently one of the top brokers in the company. He's a managing broker with a licensed assistant, Chloe Gubata. They cover the greater Seattle area for buyers and sellers. Prior to real estate, Scott grew up in Alaska as the son of a builder. His construction career included building homes, commercial building, and resort housing in Japan. Scott's clients say that his construction background is an invaluable asset when it comes to helping them with their real estate needs. Scott's goal is to provide exceptional customer service, good advice, and total integrity in every transaction. He's creative, outside-the-box thinker with a dogged determination to represent his clients far beyond what is normal and expected. So, Scott, we're going to be talking about who's looking out for buyers and what some of those things are to be thinking of, and who better to have this conversation? I know that you work with a lot of buyers as well as sellers, but in this market, it seems that a lot of the agents and brokers are maybe shying away from buyers because it's just so much more work and it's just easier to work with the sellers in the type of market that we're in. But can you start out with explaining to my listeners kind of what's going on out there?
Sure. So we were coming off 2 years of, as you know, very hot selling in Seattle. Actually, it was highest. They just said this week that the highest value, the values have risen higher here than any other city in the nation. That's what I just read. So that a lot of people have gotten into the market of selling real estate. It's really what's going on. So we've seen an influx of new agents, and what's interesting about it all is the inventory has been record low. The interest rates are record low. And then a lot of people moving in. It's made for a really, really tough market. So what's going on recently is that the inventory is increasing due to the holidays, which is kind of a natural end of the year thing. But in a recent meeting, we've had a reaction to the election and whatnot, and 5 agents raised their hands saying that they've had buyers get out of the market just to kind of let the dust settle since the election. So that's kind of an interesting phenomenon that's going on in real time right now. And then as we're gearing up for the beginning of this year, people are watching the interest rates kind of rising, and a little bit of trepidation, nervousness, and everybody's asking what's going to happen. And that's what's happening right now in real time. Yeah,
and I think some of the slowdown, which is what you mentioned, and I talked in many chatted wells with the interest rates, and I've said this before many times in my 21-year career, we've seen interest rates drastically go up within a short period of time. So it wasn't that long ago we had the election, and 0.75% interest rates have gone up. So, Scott, what does a hot market do to compromise agents' integrity?
This has been kind of a thing. I've been thinking a lot and watching a lot, and dismayed about a lot, because what's happening out there is because what you just alluded to, that buyers are having such a difficult time getting their offers through, that agents are becoming very creative at getting an offer through. And I think they lose a little sense of reality. Sometimes just because you can doesn't mean you should when you're bidding on a house. And when an agent's had the same buyer and they've gotten their rear kicked 7 times on a house, they're going to be tempted to throw in everything to get them this next house.
Yes.
Including doing things sometimes that maybe they shouldn't do. So sometimes they lose perspective of the value, is a great example. Contingencies that maybe they didn't include, such as inspections. That's a very common one, and financing is a very common one. I heard my manager recently say, for instance, that he's been getting probably 3 calls a week from buyers that have been complaining about they went all in on an offer and then they found out the house was not what they thought it was once they moved in, but they never did an inspection. They never had it checked out. That's just a small example.
So, and they're not encouraging them to do pre-inspections?
Well,
just telling them to waive that altogether?
This is the conversation. And so what's happening with, especially a lot of what I call compromised agents, is that they are doing what we call coattail inspections, where here's a great example. So listing agent, hey, Tina, how's it going? Yeah, how many pre-inspects on the house, Scott? Well, we've had 3. Oh, really? Okay, cool. How many offers are you expecting? I don't know, maybe 7. Okay, go back to the buyer. Well, there's 3 inspections and they got 7 offers coming in, so I guess they didn't find anything. So that's what I call a coattail inspection. So then the buyer or the agent discuss it and go, well, why spend $500 on an inspection? We're just going to find out what somebody else already paid for.
Yeah.
Or somebody else did a sewer scope, and agents will telegraph, well, Joe Blow did a sewer scope and they're still writing an offer. So basically they're kind of telegraphing to other agents and their buyers that, well, they didn't find anything wrong.
Yes.
So
Interesting.
Okay.
So you really, the takeaway here is to really make sure you're going over all of the contingencies, understanding if you're waiving any of them, what that really means to make sure that you're protected and understand. And then it's up to you as a buyer to make a decision if that's what you really want to do to potentially get that home. So Scott, can you talk about the bait and switch of online agent referral sites?
This is something I don't think a lot of people know, but I just talked to an agent this week. She's a newer agent, and she's teaming up with an unknown realtor site that basically caters. They sell leads. It's long story short.
Quite a few of them out there, yep.
Lots of them out there, and so this particular group of people, and they're not alone. There's a bunch of them that spend anywhere from thousands to, these guys spend tens of $1,000s a month.
Yeah.
A month to buy leads, and then they bring in newer agents and take a commission to work those leads.
Okay.
And so ostensibly you think you're getting a premier agent from this site that's an expert in the area, and a lot of times these people aren't even in the local area that they're buying these zip codes to sell the leads for. And then they're getting agents that actually can't, frankly, make a living at a traditional office, bringing them in on a percentage basis, pushing all those leads out to them, letting them work it, and then everybody's, trying to make money. So really, if you think you are getting a top local agent from some of these sites, you may come to find that was not even close to the case.
Yeah, so maybe a good question to ask when you're interviewing, talk with an agent that you're meeting online is just how long have you experience do you have in the industry? And, find out because I know too, also when they bring those in, there's a lot of high pressures behind the scene to work those leads and get them into contract. And so then you just add on, as what you were talking about earlier as well, is really the high pressure of getting somebody maybe doing things that aren't for their best interest to get that offer accepted. So Scott, assessing homes properly before you make an offer, how important is that?
It's a great example of a gal. Recently, we were looking at a house. It had been on the market. They had one sale. The deal flipped. It came back on the market. And great house. And we're ready to kind of go for it. So I said, well, let me do some research on it. Found out, the square footage was being misadvertised, so that it was actually 300 square foot less than what the agent had put out there, which at $200, $300 a foot's a lot of money. Yes, a lot of money. And then when I pulled the comps on it, sales comparables, I couldn't find one for that price, not even within 20 grand of that asking price. And I go, gosh, I hate to, so we had the conversation with the buyer, and I said, I hate to do this to you, but I said, I cannot find one good comp to substantiate this price. I think the house is a decent house, and I'd like to help you get it, but I think we should really look at the price. So we called the agent. The agent actually admitted to me over the phone she didn't think it was worth the money either, and it was $30,000 above her market appraisal came in. But the other agent had said that he would take it, so she felt compelled to do it. And this was a discount brokerage, so she didn't care. Long story short, she said, well, I got somebody else on the hook anyway that's a newer agent, and they don't seem to know the market, and I think they're going to write an offer on it. So long story short, you can be tempted to overpay and go all in on something without doing any market research. We step back, let them have it. But I feel very good about that she did not grossly overpay for that property.
Yeah. Go ahead, Scott.
Well, had we not looked at the sales comparables, and you get into these eBay moments where you just want to compete, you lose perspective, and, when the market cools down, suddenly you found out you probably shouldn't have done that.
So, and I have to say, Scott, because you were in one of the toughest markets right in the Seattle area. And so there's, to really step back and look at the whole picture of what that particular home, in the lack of inventory, add to it as well, to advise your clients on whether it's going to be a good property to make an offer on or not is a huge thing. And I just, it's great that you're out there and looking out for your buyers. So I know there's a decline in the construction quality with the lack of qualified workmen and project managers. So how is this affecting things?
It's disgusting. And growing up in that industry, everybody needs bodies on the job. And I used to do project management. And I remember one time we had 55 guys working, and probably 10 were really great, and about 20 were decent, and a bunch of the other guys were just bodies I needed on the job. Well, it's exponentially worse now because there's so many projects out there that people are trying to man jobs. Couple that with the flippers that have no accountability whatsoever, and they watch these shows on TV, and suddenly it's some of the worst tile work that you see. The fit and finish on these houses is just abominable. And the bottom line is the public is not catching on because they're lay people. They don't understand that. And this is, again, the difference between a good agent. You don't just go all in just because I'm trying to sell a house here.
Yes.
You should be looking out for your clients. And you actually can find good homes with good quality. You just have to be more discerning, and you have to look harder. Yeah,
makes sense. So what is your opinion on the buyer beware principle regarding flipped houses?
An important thing to remember is when you buy new construction, you're going to get a builder warranty typically with that new home. Yep. With flipped houses, you get nothing.
Yes.
And so that the buyer beware part is you really, really need to scrutinize that house and see, just because it's got a new kitchen and shiny white paint and trim, you really need to see through the walls, so to speak, so you can see what was covered up, how well was the work done. Was this what I call an Uncle Fred remodel, where Uncle Fred came in with his saw and his hammer and just kind of did a bunch of work? But he has no game, no skill.
Yes.
You can tell those signs if you look for them.
And so would you advise your clients to actually hire an expert to come in, like an inspector, inspect that work to make sure that it's quality, or how are you helping your buyers there?
Usually if I see signs that some basic things aren't done well, I assume automatically that there's a lot more that wasn't done well as well. So because of that, I honestly steer people away from flips.
I was just going to ask you, are you encouraging your clients to buy flips, or are you telling them it's not the best?
Honestly,
option?
The best thing for buyers is why does somebody buy a house to flip? They're profiting on it. They are profiteers, pure and simple. So why would you pay them the profit when go do it yourself? Hire your guy. Get the house on the cheap, and you do the work and do it the way you want it done. Don't have the guy that does the terrible work and pay him off for that. So that's what I'm telling people.
So a good opportunity, you go out there and find a house that needs a little love. You're not getting the multiple offers or as many of them because everybody else is steering away from them, and then go in and do that. And having somebody that has the background that you do can be a huge benefit. Added benefit on top of that.
I hope so.
Yeah. So Scott, in wrapping up my time with you, any call to action that you want to give to my listeners if they're out there in the real estate market?
The key is not to assume anybody is an expert in their field. beware of discounters, that the reason you're working with them is because they discount their commission or you get them from some kind of discount site. Make sure that somebody is bringing something that you don't have to the table.
Yes.
So there are people that are really, really good at what they do out there. Find those people, and when they represent you properly, you will be so glad later that you picked them.
Yeah. Scott, thank you so much, and congratulations on all the success that you've had this year, and great 2017 coming up, I'm sure.
Thanks, Tina.
Coming up next in the Money Hour, Master Builders Association and Slabjacking. Patrick Hayes with Superior Slabjacking right here at 1150 AM KKNW after the short break.